Hey designers, welcome to the channel. Here we talk all about product, Figma and leveling up our design skills. So, in today's video we will learn about constraints in Figma. So let's begin. So now I'm on my Figma file and let's see what happens to this frame if we horizontally resize it and also vertically resize it. As you may notice, different elements are behaving differently. That is because of the constraints applied. Now we will recreate this design and see what constraints are applied to each one of them. So I'm taking this empty frame and I'm going to add this heading in the bell icon to this frame as well. And after that's done, I'm going to horizontally resize this frame. Notice how the bell icon is not affected by the resizing, and let's see how it is intended to behave. In this frame, notice how the bell icon changes its position based on the resizing. So I've selected this bell icon here, and on the right hand side on the constraints section, notice how left and top constraints are by default applied. I'm going to change this left constraint to right and let's keep the top as it is. What it does it tells the element to stick to the right edge of the frame, and no matter how you resize it, it is going to be glued to the right edge. And similarly in this frame, if you notice, the first and the second rectangle behave exactly like the heading text and the bell icon. So let's quickly add these into this new frame and apply those same constraints. So for the first rectangle, we want it to be glued to the left hand side on resizing. So we will keep the default constraint of left and top. So the second rectangle, I want it to behave similar to the bell icon. So I'm changing that to right. And now if I resize this, notice how both of them behave differently. Now let's move on to the third rectangle. Let's see how the third rectangle was behaving on horizontal and vertical resize. Notice how in both the resizing, the third rectangle remains centered. That is done by applying a center constraint. So let's try it out. I'm going to select the third rectangle here and going to change the right constraint to center from this drop down, and also change the top constraint to center. You can also apply this constraint by clicking on these lines on that constraint box there. Now if I resize this, notice that the third rectangle remains centered in both the cases. Now let's see for the fourth rectangle. When I resize this frame horizontally or vertically, notice that the size of the rectangle changes accordingly, unlike the other three rectangles. So for this, first we will select the fourth rectangle and I'm going to change the constraint here from center to scale. And then when we resize this, notice how the rectangle size increases horizontally on horizontal resize but not vertically. For that, we will select the fourth rectangle and change the constraint again from center to scale here. Now if I resize this, notice that the rectangle size resizes both on horizontal as well as vertical resize. Let's see about the rectangle at the bottom. When I horizontally resize this, it resizes end to end, and when I vertically resize it, it is glued to the bottom. Let's see how to do that. First, I'm going to add the rectangle. So now when I resize this frame, notice how it is stick to the left hand side. That's because of the default constraint that is applied to it. Now let's change this constraint. From left, I'll change it to left and right, and also from top, I'll make it to bottom. Now when I resize this frame, notice how it behaves. So now let's look at this last element. If I horizontally resize it, that element is stick to the right edge, and if I vertically resize it, it stick to the bottom. So first I'm going to make this icon. So after making this icon, I'm going to resize it and check. Because of the default constraint, this is how it is behaving. Now let's change this constraint. I'm going to select this icon and I'm going to change left to right because we want it to be sticky to the right edge, and I'm also going to change the top to bottom because we want it to be sticky to the bottom when resized. So now let's again check by resizing. I'm resizing horizontally and I'm resizing vertically. It is behaving as we expected. With that, we have covered all types of constraints available. I hope you liked this video, and if you want to see more such videos, make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you.